talking about the World Cup quarterfinals, which start here in the United States, our time. They start in the morning, tomorrow morning, Friday morning. So we're going to be talking about who we think is going to win, who we think is going to lose, what's going to happen from there on, whether Russia's actually doping, lots of things. With us tonight, I am Pat. We have TJ.
Hi. And somewhere we have Chris.
Chris will show up. Yeah, Chris will show up. I think he's battling with the technology right now, but he claims he'll be here. So we look forward to it.
Do we though? Do we?
I don't know.
That's a tough question.
Ryan asks, how about Neymar? Oh my God.
Neymar has topped my list. Even he needs a good Pepe or Sergio Ramos slide tackle.
Yeah.
Or Marquez. I'll even take Marquez at this point. Neymar.
To the point where when Leon stepped on his ankle on purpose, which was a clear red card in my view, I was glad the red card wasn't given. And normally I would accept any reason for a red card to be given to a Mexican player. In this case, I'm like, no, totally. I'm glad you did it. He deserved it.
The only thing they needed was kick him.
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to roll around like a moron like that,
But the internet wins on these every time.
It's tremendous, yeah. And it's sad too because he is one of the best players in the tournament.
Supremely talented,
yeah,
off the charts level of talent, phenomenal. Off the charts level of field vision. What a baby.
Yeah, he's the guy who, you've always got a friend who wants to tell you how much soccer sucks and how much the players are wimps, and it's just a bunch of people who roll around. Speaking of
wimps who roll around, yeah,
that's how I roll.
We're on Neymar right now, and how he's the player who your soccer hating friend will tell you this is the reason I hate soccer.
Yeah.
And I was saying I would rather have a Sergio Ramos or Pepe tackle or even Rafa Marquez tackle on Neymar and wouldn't feel bad about it. As much as I despise those guys, I'd rather see Neymar get a beating from them. There's just no need. There's no need for what he does. None.
I am in no way in support of Neymar. That said, would I like to see any of those fellow scumbags, we could say, in this instance, injure him? Nah.
No, I mean, I want him to be there for the
At least he
yeah.
still does creative things that are fun to watch.
Yeah.
Those guys kind of have nothing else to offer. I'm not saying they're not talented, and I guess I'd even say it about the one I hate the most in that conversation.
Which one is that? I assume it's Marquez. But I mean, you're talking about, that's like saying, do I want Stalin, Mussolini, or Hitler? Really?
There's definitely a Hitler in that conversation to me. But
would he be the Mexican Hitler?
But I at least I see it as Neymar still brings something else to the table. I hate all that shit. I do wish that there was a more concerted effort to crack down on it. That, maybe VAR was used to review some of those and then retroactively punish guys for diving and for simulation. That is all ridiculous stuff. I don't necessarily disagree with the people who say that sucks in soccer. I think it sucks in every sport where it happens. Where you watch the receiver in football pretend to get interfered with and dive. You watch guys who want to act like they took a charge or something in basketball and they go flying 10 feet. I can't stand it in any sport whatsoever. I understand that there are times that it's worth your while to take the chance. That, you did receive a bit of a foul, and come on, these are grown men all trying as hard as they can to accomplish something. There's going to be physical interaction. I guess I understand all of it. I don't, and I accept that there are times in which, there is enough interaction that it's worth your while to take the chance to go down because you can't necessarily get the ball or you can't win you can't score whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish there. But a call goes a long way for you. It advances the ball. It sets things up for other opportunities. I accept that. It's the like over the top stuff that I do wish there was a bigger crackdown on. I mean,
It's
what
been
Ronaldo
suggested.
was for so long too.
Yeah, it's been suggested that Neymar's doing this more in this tournament because of VAR, and he's trying to. He knows that something happened, so he's trying to coax the like on in the case of the Leon stomp. He knows that if they do go to video, that will probably be possibly be a red card. So, but I mean, VAR is supposed to be always working in the background, so that would have been seen already. That's not the way it works. It's
Well,
it's
and I
always
think,
supposed to be working.
and if I recall correctly, it did. I mean, they were already saying something to him before, probably before Neymar stopped rolling. You know what? The only thing I would like to see is Neymar actually get hurt on his second barrel roll when he's
He'll be served. Yeah,
like injure his hip or injure a knee or something like that. Like get a cleat stuck and I mean, I don't want to wish an ACL on somebody, but if he's going to blow an ACL, I want it done some creative way like that. I think that would maybe teach him and a lot of people a lesson.
and TJ Binary asked about Geiger in the Mark Geiger in the England Colombia match and how he did. The world seemed to think that he was terrible, and I'm no fan of Mark Geiger, and have not been. Chris and I have not been on record since 2015 in the gift to Mexico in the Gold Cup. I don't think he did a good job taking control of that match early, but I also don't think he was as bad as now people are saying.
I've watched him do a couple of games, and I specifically recall, I get it, it's MLS, but it was a Fire game earlier this year, and it was similar in the sense of in the beginning of the game, you're like, he has no control over the game. He doesn't know what he's doing. There should be cards. There should be cards right, left, and right and left, but he doesn't do it. He's very, especially early in the game. That's how he is. He lets the players sort. He lets the players sort it out.
He let that headbutt go, which
that's absolutely what happened. Yeah, in that game. He didn't do anything early, and then he came in, and the second half, there was a point where I couldn't believe there hadn't been any reds because it was like, doesn't everybody have a yellow at this point?
Right, exactly.
And but that's kind of how he works. You sit there and you're like, how has nobody gone? But he doesn't give the cards early.
Yeah.
And therefore, later on, he has them in his pocket to use to bring things down as needed. Although, like I said, I didn't think it was nearly as out of control. You watch a referee out of control, you can see in their body language, you can see how they react.
He doesn't do that stuff. Yeah, no, it's
specifically that, which tells me he knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. I'm sure he knew these referees to get there. They aren't just walking on the field without knowing what's going on. They've studied the film. They know Colombia is going to be cheap, chippy, and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, Diego Costa always gets away with it.
And then they know England is going to fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, like they did. So, and that played into Colombia's hands. He knows that, and he knows how to play. He knows what he's doing. There's a reason why he was on that game, I think, and it was because if you had somebody who was card happy early. Would you rather have somebody like that where they're card happy really early and now you're down to 11 the game? And I get it. The English apologists and the wankers, they're all going to be like, well, yeah, it was very. That's not what you want. You want 11 on 11. You want them to sort it out. You want a red card to be a last resort, not a first resort. And Mark Geiger is the epitome of that policy. He doesn't give a red card unless it is absolutely earned. And if there's a benefit of the doubt, he's going to leave him on the field.
Well, I'm just distracted by the fact that you have a landline.
I have a landline?
You do. Yes. It's behind you.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? It actually rings, believe it or not. It's pretty funny.
I hope it rings.
Although, to sidetrack, we got the landline because, well, if we lose power, we still have a phone. Except that it's connected to the internet, so if we lose power, we lose it anyway.
Yeah, that's not going to work. What else do you guys want to talk about before we... You know what? Ryan brings up Spain. Spain brings me to their opponent. The team that has run far more.
What team do you say? Do you not like? We make Russia a home for you. We give you place to play World Cup. We tell you how game will end. You know this, so you make bet and you make money. It's good, no?
They're definitely doping.
I was gonna say, is there anything more to say? I think
There's
Chris summed it up perfectly.
I mean, I don't even think I'm being unfair to speculate on this. Between the distance that they've run compared to the other teams, the fact that none of their players, except for one, play outside of Russia, which would allow for no drugs testing during the season, the fact that they've been kicked out of the Olympics for drugs testing, for a systematic state-sponsored doping program, the fact that the Cherishev's dad said that they were doping.
One,
All of this points to problem.
why do you trust father? Father knows nothing. What do he know? He hears something and he repeat, and then media make big deal of and say on television, oh, he make drugs. Oh, we see Diego Maradona, he take drug. No one say nothing about this.
Yeah, you know what though? I mean, I don't think drugs help you in a penalty shootout. It's just Russia actually has to go get to some level do it. But
David De Gea shitting the bed didn't hurt it.
No, it didn't.
Any. I mean,
there was best goalkeeper in the world, my ass.
Maybe he liked money.
There's also the fact that, and we talked about this, there could be someone coming in the locker room at halftime giving them a stern warning on how things are going to go.
Russia will not like if you win this game. And sometimes things happen in Russia. Plane go down. Sometimes door get locked, dog get in. Dog do not get out? Well, I don't know.
You should do the show that way the rest of the show.
It scares me that Chris is 100% right in how this works. That there's no way there isn't something going on with that team.
Didn't they?
Because weren't they? I mean, 4 years ago weren't they the worst team in Brazil? And they were bad.
Were they there?
Yeah, didn't they have guy their coach was actually like they paid $8 million and they were still crap.
Was that when Gus Hinnick was there, or was that?
They play in 2014.
Why are you saying they? Shouldn't you be saying we?
We play. Who is they? Who is we? All is Russia. Why do you ask question?
I think we need to set up a GoFundMe to get Chris a Russia jersey.
Sandra says, to be fair, drugs don't score or save balls. That is true, but they do give you a lot more energy.
And for a moment, I will stop with the accent and say,
tell you,
the penalty, like the shootout itself, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Anything can happen. Realistically, sure, it gets in a lot of guys' heads. We've seen Messi take plenty of bad ones. We've seen Ronaldo take a bad one in this tournament. But all in all, if it's a well-taken penalty, you should pretty much be able to tell the keeper where you're going and still put it past them. It's so close. If you hit it hard enough, they can't stop it. I hit it hard enough and hit it in a corner. Good luck to any keeper who's going to touch that.
You shit on Harry Kane all the time, but that's what he does. It's always in the top left corner, except for the one time he went straight down the middle.
I'm not saying that I've shit on Harry Kane's golden boot so far, but I will say no, his penalties have been excellent. I'll give him credit for that. He's done exactly what he's supposed to do. He picks a corner and he just hammers it.
It's going to be phenomenal at Real Madrid next season.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with the shootout itself. That it went to penalties, then I start to wonder a little bit about some things. How is it that Russia played in the – how is it Russia got this World Cup? We know about that one. Russia suddenly was drawn into the easiest group statistically of all time. Russia opens the tournament 5-0.
Now they're on the easiest side of the bracket I've ever seen.
Everything is lining up for them to win a World Cup. Part of me wants them to do it because I kind of want this to be the death of FIFA. And it sucks because then we have to rebuild something. And this is like my favorite event.
Russian doping aside, this is the greatest World Cup I've ever seen. The games, like all the goals in
And
extra
to some
time,
extent, anything could happen. A lot of goals
stoppage.
at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
Well, but the question becomes, Pat, is because we don't have a rooting interest, are we allowed to enjoy the tournament more than
Yeah,
we would otherwise?
yes.
Where at this point, because the
Although
U.S.
at this
would,
point, the U.S. would be out anyway.
well, even with them being out, would you, because you're so worried about the next game or you're more focused on that, you miss what's going on around you, kind of thing, and you would
Maybe
still
to some
you'd
extent,
still
yeah.
watch the games, but you wouldn't be as involved with them. You wouldn't be as allow yourself to be as involved because you'd start looking at it from, okay, who do I want to win this game to make the U.S.'s draw easiest? Things like that. Other than Mother Russia.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, but other than that, it's been a phenomenal World Cup. 2 games we should talk about before we do our preview of the upcoming games. Which game did you guys like better? France Argentina or Belgium Japan?
I was at a funeral all day Saturday, so
That's right.
really kind of at funeral things like all weekend. So I only got to see. I didn't get to see any of the games on Saturday. I only got to see the shootout of Spain Russia, and then I got to see a fair amount of Croatia and Denmark. So I will abstain from this vote.
Probably better for everyone. France and Argentina was at that point my favorite game. I think it was overall my favorite game so far, even though it wasn't close. I mean, the score would indicate that it was closer than it really was. But Kylian Mbappe was every bit the next Thierry Henry, only faster. I loved that game, and then the France. I'm sorry, the Belgium Japan in the 70th minute. I'm like, well, I mean, here's another popular pick to win it all that's going to go out, and they score 3 goals, including one in stoppage time. That the throw from Courtois, I had a flashback to Landon Donovan in Algeria against Algeria in 2010. The second the throw was made, I'm like, they're gonna score. Oh my God, they scored. The dummy from Lukaku then to give it up was even better than Landon's finish, obviously, which was off a ricochet. But and then that was the final kick of that game. It was absolutely phenomenal. So that probably took it for me over France and Argentina. But and then the England game. I mean, to see England win on penalties, and after they get scored on in the and that was in stoppage time too, and you knew they were going to be crushed, and then they went down in the penalties, and it was all setting up for what it always does, and then Jordan Pickford came through big, and they won, and it just proves that from the moment the Cubs won the World Series on, everything in sports is different, except Mexico still goes out in 4 games,
which we appreciate. Are we going to cut that off and say everything in sports is upside down, or are we
everything in the world?
Might be the whole world. Yeah.
It's the whole world. But kind of go back on your point, for me it was, and I watched some of the France and Argentina game as much as I could between times being dad, but Belgium and Japan I thought was the better game, because France and Argentina, I want to say you could see it coming. Even when Argentina went up 2-1, you kind of felt like Argentina still can't stop it.
Were there not enough Maradona cutaways for you?
No, they needed to have the split screen. Oh, like the sign language person in the upper corner. They needed Maradona Cam in the upper corner.
I didn't see him at all during that game. Like there must have been, was he there? Like there was some sort of mandate, don't show him as much. And that's what we need.
It was depressing. We needed Maradona Cam. We needed to have him doing the lines of cocaine right off the rail of his luxury suite. I mean, you needed to have that, and we did.
A rail on a railing, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much. You needed to have it. We didn't have it. To see the end of the Belgium Japan game though, and everything about that ending was absolutely phenomenal, and that's why you can sit there and say, well, this is why I think Belgium will win the tournament. But aren't they on the same side with Mother Russia?
They are.
So
hopefully
that ain't gonna happen.
Take care of that Saturday, and we don't have to think about Mother Russia anymore. So it's been cute, but yeah, no more. Like hopefully Croatia can deal with that, and then an England-Croatia semifinal. That'd be
I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah,
I mean, Croatia didn't look as strong against Denmark as they did previously, but man, Modric and Rakitic in the center of midfield against just about probably anyone but France, I tend to say they could probably control it. And France hasn't necessarily shown that they couldn't do it to them too, but part of the reason they're such a strong choice for winning it all is that, God, look at that midfield, and they don't even have everyone out there. I mean, they got 5 guys basically in that midfield that it's like it's an embarrassment of riches. And then you talk about there are other guys on the bench that they could go to too.
Yeah, it's absurd. And then I think this is we always look at who's the player who. I mean, in this day and age, it's kind of weird to say this because like we shouldn't need a World Cup to go to have a star breakout. Like there's club soccer on TV.
There's always somebody though.
But it's going to be, it was James last time around. Yeah. And in this time around, it's going to be Kylian Mbappe. I mean, not like we didn't know who the guy was, but my God, is he good and fast. Like he looks like when the Atlanta Braves had that dude who was going out and racing regular guys and the closing speed was like, that's Mbappe. He's that fast. He's incredible. He should be rightfully, I would say, an Arsenal player right now, taking over for the legend of Thierry Henry, but that's not going to happen.
Now he's getting paid. He's getting paid.
He may be at Real Madrid soon, even though they deny it.
That's one I haven't heard. I've heard Neymar there, but I haven't heard of Mbappe there.
The news was going around yesterday that Real Madrid says they've made no offer to PSG or to Mbappe for the player. But the rumor was that they had bought him. That was floating around, and then they denied both sides of it. That they made a deal with Mbappe or with Real Madrid. It seems crazy that a year after joining PSG he might move somewhere else. But then again,
technically he's only on loan.
True.
Monaco, with the option to buy, whatever, and. If PSG wants to keep Neymar, they probably can't keep Mbappe without running afoul of fair play, unless they re-loan him, which I guess could happen too. But I don't know. I'm not worried about that right now. We still have more World Cup games to go.
We do, starting tomorrow. The pulling up the schedule because we're going to talk about them
now. Lord Drago says that. I'm wearing green to make fun of Mexico. I very intentionally did not wear this shirt on, what was that, Monday? A bigger American hero than Landon Donovan. I guess you could say I'm wearing it to make fun of Mexico now.
Did you pay $150 for it in the Mexico team store?
I did not, no. It's actually a pretty funny shirt. I'll show it to you guys afterwards, but it's too much effort to try and show it on air here. I picked it up while I was in Louisville. Ryan keeps asking about this black market liver story. TJ, you knew about it, so we'll let you comment.
I only was Googling it while we were talking about it. Oh. I looked up black market liver. That was the first thing that came up. I know absolutely nothing about it.
In that case, I know just as much as you do because you sent me the link. I hadn't heard about it.
That is a Google search of black market liver. That's what came up. So,
but yeah, pretty crazy. Eric Abidal supposedly like he had a liver transplant a few years ago, and now the president of Barcelona says that they bought it on the black market.
That's nuts.
Supposedly he had received it from his brother, but he kind of intimates that like maybe that story was just made up to cover up what had really happened. It's It's insane, but it's like the perfect kind of insane that it seems totally plausible.
And perfect for us to discuss on this show at length, really.
All right, there are games tomorrow. Should we talk about them? Do we need to
Indeed.
do we need to
want to go
address
over? Do we want to go over how bad our? Well, I should say my picks were. You guys did all right in the last round.
We don't need to rehash. I don't think we probably do need to address the Pulisic to Spurs thing that popped today.
Yes.
Don Wise from Stars and Stripes says that
San Antonio. He's going to go play for Popovich. San Antonio.
The article that the alleged article that everybody was saying reportedly this offer's been made from Kicker doesn't actually exist within Kicker. It's not a real article. Somebody made up an article and then did a reportedly, and then everybody else did a reportedly, and nobody did any actual journalism. So not to say that he wouldn't be offered anything by Spurs. He could be. That number seems about right to me.
I was having this conversation earlier. Like, 50 million euros doesn't feel like a terrible assessment for him. I could see 60. 60 probably seems like what they'd go for. In this market, he's hyped, but not so hyped that he's going to push it to like 90. But I could see 60. 50 seems like maybe it could be a genuine offer. Like, the first one to see, maybe they'll go low.
Charles, I hope Timothy Weah is better than Mbappe. Sandra, what was reported was that there was a 50 million euro offer by Tottenham for Pulisic, but it doesn't appear to be true. So hopefully,
because this team no one's ever heard of. So as far as we know, this team doesn't exist. Well, it's just a link.
6 months from now, there will be a comment saying you guys have never heard of Tottenham.
We need to assess though. Does that do the Spurs have the room under the salary cap, or do they have to trade Kawhi Leonard first to get under the cap to afford Pulisic? That's kind of what I'm wondering with this.
And where does LeBron fit in now? Poonslayer, I've said that for a long time. To me, Pulisic is the next Arjen Robben at Bayern. I know Sandra and other VVB fans don't want to hear that, but that would be the one place I would go, yeah, okay, he can make that move.
I also don't want him to make this move. I mean, I don't want him to make this move in particular, just period. But I definitely don't want him to make any move before next week or a week and a half from now, whatever.
Yeah.
Already Donovan's bailed from Leon, who I'm going to see in a week. Now Pulisic could be going from Dortmund. Like, come on.
Yes, 15 days from now, I hope he's still with Dortmund so we can see him play in Chicago.
I guess it's going to come down to, if this happens, it will happen in the next 15 days because, well, Chris is Chris and he deserves this. He deserves land. He deserves everything.
This is something we're going to announce on this show. Chris and I both wore England jerseys, and they still won. So maybe, Jack, maybe it really is coming home because we didn't blow it.
I wore my 96 one from the Euros when Gareth Southgate himself missed a penalty.
Yes. And I wore one I got at Ross. I think it was a 2014 away.
I bought mine in England in 96. It's like the most ridiculous one, and it's part of the reason I still kind of enjoy it. But it is 90s fit, so it's like enormous.
So, well, is it enormous, or does it fit perfectly now that you've filled out?
Chris never filled out.
Comparatively speaking,
he's the same.
That's true.
Same as
Pat, you said you bought yours at Ross, so you got it for $20.
No, I got it for like 12.
Do you still feel robbed?
No, it's a decent jersey. I probably had I don't remember. I probably had to pick it up off the floor to buy it at Ross, but I'm sure it wasn't marked.
Gotta pick it up off the floor.
The place is terrible.
Apparently, Rooney. Reading through the comments, apparently Rooney had a press conference. I didn't watch it. Did you?
I haven't seen it.
They had it during the Brazil game, didn't they? Or did he have another one? I did like that they threw him up in front of the Capitol Hill backdrop when he was doing satellite interviews, and it looked like he was about to break like Trump news or something. He just had Capitol Hill behind him. He's gonna.
They should have put a circle pin on him of any sort and see if anybody thought he was a member of Congress. Although I'm still, like I said, I will not appreciate Rooney until he does a Restore 54 commercial. Until then, I'm not on the Rooney bandwagon.
Oh, it's happening. All right.
We Restore 10 now.
It would have to be. Uruguay, France tomorrow. First game out of the gate in the quarterfinals. It's a good one.
I think you have to go France. And I think
hard not to.
I would consider 3-1 probably a fair scoreline. Maybe 3-2 if Suarez plays really well. I mean, look, Uruguay has a fantastic defense. And they've got a fantastic, maybe you could say a fantastic couple goal scorers in Cavani and Suarez. But France is so much of a stronger collective team, which is weird to say. France is a stronger collective. Not a common thing you hear. But I just think as a team, they are better.
I am having a hard time with Griezmann's Fortnite celebration. I hate that. I hate it. Just
yeah, I don't understand Fortnite. But then again, I'm old, so you can all get off my fucking lawn. So anyway, let's move on. No Cavani, France wins.
Cavani,
I think.
right?
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, I would take Uruguay, but without Cavani, no, France wins.
Yeah, France wins, which means they won't. The other game tomorrow is, this will be fun, Brazil and Belgium. Men, what do you think?
I don't know what to say on this one.
Does that ever happen?
On the one hand, if Neymar plays like he can, I could see Brazil, in a sense, walking away with this.
It's hard not to pick Brazil.
On the other hand, this Belgium team is damn good. And they're kind of loaded too.
Yeah.
If
just a little.
Here's my question with Belgium. Sorry to interrupt, Chris, because I know you're eventually going to get to a point, but it might take you a half hour to get there.
That's what I go for.
Belgium was coached by anybody but Roberto Martinez, how much better could they be?
He's worked for him so far.
I don't think he's done a bad job. And of course, we do know who's coaching up the forwards.
There's that.
Our boy TH14. So yeah, I think I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to pick Belgium.
It's a bold choice.
It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick against Brazil, but I think I'm going to pick Belgium.
I'm going to pick Brazil because I've been wrong about every turn so far. So therefore, I hope I'm wrong again. So I'm going to take Brazil for that reason alone. I really can't stand him. I don't understand. Neymar's such a bitch.
I'm going to say penalties, and it goes to Belgium in penalties.
I'll take Brazil. I'll take Brazil just to go against you, and I hope I'm wrong. Most of the way, so I like our chances that way.
That one I see could go to penalties, and I do think that Belgium's more prepared to face something like that.
Sweden and England on Saturday. I mean, Sweden's been strong. Sweden's been really strong. And I don't really want to pick this team because if I pick this team, I feel like I'm going to kill them. But come on, England. I think England wins.
I think you have to go England there.
How will Harry Kane score his goals?
There'll be a penalty.
Will there be one awarded to him that bounced off of him?
I was going to say it'll be somehow lucky. It may not bounce off him again, but it'll be another one of these where it's like the ball just kind of dumps loose and somehow it just happens to fall right at his feet where it's like, oh, all he has to do is kind of stab at it and it goes in.
Do you know who scores a lot of those kind of goals, though? And we also shit on him all the time, but there is some skill to it. Chicharito. Like, balls just fall to certain guys because those guys know where to be half the time.
One of the things I've said, and even as I've criticized Kane in this tournament, is there's something to be said for he has positioned himself that he's in a place to take advantage of this. So it's not as though I would say that he simply got like the golden ticket here, but um, there is an awful lot of luck on his side right now. I guess you could say sooner or later it's probably going to run out, but I don't see it against Sweden. Sweden to me is Iceland from the Euros, and they're playing well. They've got a lot of things going for them, but are they truly good enough to start really hanging at this level? Yeah, I don't think so.
The England winning the World Cup would, I mean, the only thing I could compare it to
Break the internet, as they say.
I mean, when the Cubs won the World Series, it's the same thing. It's a self sort of hating fan base that knows their team is never going to do it. So if they do it, what happens then? But
Here,
I
let
would,
me.
I would like to see it.
Can I sum this up in one sentence? It's like the dog if he catches the car. What next?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's the same with the Cubs. It's the same. It'd be the same with England. I don't understand Sweden's success. They've been very good. I don't understand it. So I'm going to pick England. And again, I hope I'm wrong just because their fan base, every time they win, gets more and more insufferable. And I really just am tired of it. I've got some friends that are English fans, and good for them. I'm happy for them. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of insufferable of England. And if they go away, I'd be okay with that. But I'm going to pick England because I've been the kiss of death. I've been channeling my inner Chris Combs. So we're going to pick England again.
Their fans will be brutal if they even make the final, I think. For the next 4 years at least, probably 20, they'll live off this and rub it in everyone's face. And while I do kind of love that, they are an overwhelming force when it comes to such things. And in that regard, they do get kind of insufferable. Stephen points out that Sweden is better individually than Iceland. I'm not saying they're not. My point is just they kind of have that feel of Iceland in the Euros, where it's like they're playing over their heads right now. And good for them. It's a cool story. I'm glad for them. Forsberg played well, but
I thought he retired. Oh, different Forsberg. Okay. Him
and Joe Sakic we're kicking ass.
2004. Would 2004 Greece be a better analogy?
Sure. In both cases, in all three cases, whatever, it's teams that good for them. They're certainly showing. It's not like I'm going to say they don't belong where they've made it, but are they truly good enough to hang with the teams they're now with? No, I think at some point they're just not individually good enough to stop the force they're gonna.
If they play Russia in the semifinal, I think they might be the favorite.
Maybe
at that point, maybe things.
Many things
there we
favorite
go.
in Russia.
On that note, Mother Russia, Croatia. Again, here there's an obvious pick. Shenanigans aside, Croatia is a far superior team, but who wins?
Who wins in football? Russia wins in football.
Who wins in poisoning?
In Russia, you do not win World Cup. World Cup wins you.
I said Russia would lose 6-0 to Spain. I was a little bit wrong. They lose 4-0 to Croatia. You got to remember, if somebody hates Russia, it might be Croatia with the Eastern European thing and Yugoslavia part of it. Croatia wins, and it's not going to be pretty.
I hope you're right.
Or is Eastern Europe? We have strong connection to Eastern Europe.
Nice.
No.
All right, so we are taking. Chris and I took France. TJ, you took Uruguay, right?
No, I took France because Cavani's not playing.
Oh, that's right. Chris and I took Belgium. TJ took Brazil. I can't believe two of us took Belgium and only one took Brazil. We're all taking England. Is that right?
Correct.
And we're all taking Croatia, but we fully realize that something could happen that causes Russia to win.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
there it is. To sum it up right there. Yeah, Poonslayer, vodka wins. It always does.
Yeah, TJ, Yugoslavia was not part of the Soviet Union. They were allied with the Soviet Union, though.
Right. Yes. But they were not actually former Soviet states. They were just Eastern Bloc states, I guess, right?
They were not Soviet Union.
Osorio for USMNT coach, yes, please.
They have own country.
There was somebody was floating around on Twitter that Osorio already pre-signed a contract for the U.S. men's national team, with it built in that the only place he can leave from the United States would be Colombia.
Huh.
If it's true, great. If not,
I have trouble believing it. But
if it's on,
I can't say the guy. Look, as we've talked about already, he's certainly earned a look.
Yeah, he's solid. I would have no problem having him come in. So, also we want to mention thoughts go out to Johann Kappelhoff, who was struck today in his car by a dude driving a stolen U-Haul on Harlem Avenue in Chicago.
I thought when you told us this story earlier, because I haven't had time to look it up today, I thought you meant he was actually physically hit himself.
At the time, I didn't know because I was getting unconfirmed stuff from my wife at work who was saying, "Do you know who this is?" I'm like, "Yes." At first, it was a Fire player. I'm like, "Please don't be Schweinsteiger. Please don't be Schweinsteiger." Not that I want anybody to be hit, but yeah. And then, I'm like, "Of course he was." Just trying to go to work in that area, and he gets hit by a stolen U-Haul. But I think he's fine. So just a crazy story, though.
I guess he showed up at practice later. So
yeah, he's. I think they checked him out at the hospital, and he's good to go. So good. Could have been worse.
So what about Klinsmann to Japan?
Did he get it?
Konnichiwa, tomarigato.
And can he effectively coach them from Los Angeles?
He's going to try.
That would be a long trip. What will his son say when he decides to cut some superstar in 4 years?
Shinji Kagawa better look out.
Yeah. Kagawa will get an invite to camp and then get sent home unbeknownst to everyone in the entire organization. And then they'll find out what they have on their hands.
Including Jurgen Klinsmann at that point.
Maybe.
You never know.
It'll be
I would like to see that happen.
Who's Magnum PI?
Tom Selleck.
The actor. Tom Selleck. What's the movie where he goes to Japan as a baseball player?
Is that Mr. Baseball?
Yes.
Oh, is it? Oh.
The only other thought
it'll be Mr. Klinsmann now.
It was Mr. Baseball.
It's not Mr. 3000 because that's the one we were in.
Yeah.
What else you guys got?
Ronaldo
is a false 9 instead of a 10. I still, you know what? I'm starting to be of the opinion that he should play wide for the U.S.
We still got to figure out, before we can really give anyone a true position, we still got to figure out who's filling those other roles. That said, Pulisic's a small guy. He's fast. So long as that's still there, yeah, I certainly like him as a winger because you can exploit those strengths. and then he can cut inside and either be a playmaker or get shots. But we got to figure out, who that playmaker is going forward, and I don't think that player has been determined yet. So it's hard to start saying, where should Pulisic play?
If you have a playmaker, he can go wide. Until you have one, you need to put him in the center because so he can get the ball in any sort of spot. I see Charles Granger asking why Osorio, because there's very few that are better prepared than him. He's coached in MLS, so he understands U.S. soccer. He understands the mentality. He understands what he's getting into. And if you add that up, if you're going to get the most out of a team and developing that talent, he might be it. That's why I think Osorio would be a phenomenal choice at this point.
And he clearly can excel as a tactician at a top level. Because like I said, I didn't think the Mexican players outplayed the German players in that game. The Mexican team outplayed the German team as a whole. Absolutely. But I thought individually it was still clear the German players were better. But as a team, like the way the Mexicans executed, Mexico was far superior in that regard. And that to me is all coaching.
CR7 to Juventus. Are you going to keep your Ronaldo Snuggie? Or are you going to throw it away if he makes the move to Italy?
It'll put stripes on it now.
That's all you need to do. I mean,
yeah. I could see him going there. It makes sense. Juventus, come on, they're always in for top players. And there are an awful lot of top-level players who Italy doesn't mind having at an old age. But part of me wonders if he'll go back to United somehow.
I want to see that because I want him to inform Alexis Sanchez that he is no longer number 7. I just think that would be enjoyable. And Juve, yeah, I think he would still dominate. I don't think he'll go anywhere, except I think he's keeping his options open because he's trying to feel out the new coach and see what.
I think Juve is one of the places that makes sense for everybody, including Madrid. I think Madrid's done with them. I think they're tired of what he, and I think that's a first move where if he moves, now they can bring in somebody like Neymar or Mbappe, and they're not worried about.
Yeah, true.
Because you ever notice Madrid when they're bringing somebody in, they usually dump a player or two. They usually don't run afoul of financial fair play. They run a little bit closer to that than the sham that PSG has tried to run and apparently is getting caught, or I guess Bournemouth as well, come to think of it. But
yeah,
it makes sense. I don't know why, but that just seems like a good fit for him. It keeps him away from the English press, which I don't think he's a fan of. And then, like I said, that'd be a precursor to another move for Madrid, and I think that would be Mbappe or Neymar. I think that's the precursor to it, as opposed to what's his name, the Welsh dude,
Gareth Bale.
Yeah, Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I mean the one way in which I see him moving is that he is getting older, and while yes, he takes phenomenal care of himself, which should extend his career longer than most players at his age. You have to start thinking a guy who's already into his 30s isn't going to be around forever. He's going to command a lot of money. Would you rather spend that money somewhere else? And granted, Real Madrid is not one of those teams that really has to worry about where are we going to find this money for this other guy that we want to spend 100 million euros on. But is it worth them to keep him around? If they can get enough big names, the fans probably will look the other way because they are Los Galacticos. They will.
Just what happens, yeah.
They will have some other superstar in a day or two, and then you get down to Neymar is in that age, and he's not going to share the spotlight. We already know why he left Barcelona. He's not going to go to Real Madrid and do it again. So
yeah, it's and Ronaldo said he doesn't want to come here. He's too good for here right now to be. I mean, he's too good for almost anywhere, but still at his age. But yeah, Juve seems like a solid fit for him if he is going to move, and it maybe the time is
He
right.
continues to challenge for Champions League.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's probably what he cares about most at this point. So
I'm kind of reading through the chat. Sorry, I'll throw this one out there because I thought it was a good question from Sandra. Neuer versus Ter Stegen. Ter Stegen.
In this World Cup, I would have gone with Ter Stegen because Neuer hasn't played in so long. Who's the number one going forward? My tendency would be to move on to Ter Stegen as well because Neuer's just getting older. That said, goalkeepers can play for a long time. Neuer is phenomenal, has been phenomenal.
Would it have made a difference?
No,
I don't think so. I don't think there were any goals.
I don't think
scored
Neuer
on
was
them
the issue.
that you could put a blame on the keeper.
But you know, in that breath, we've, as U.S. fans, we watched Casey Keller play the 98, and then in 2006 we saw him again, correct? With Friedel in between in 2002.
Yeah.
And Casey Keller wasn't bad in either of them, but you can see the difference in a keeper can make in that game, and watching Friedel's presence on the field versus Casey Keller's. And we've talked about that at length before. Is this a case where that may have happened as well?
You know, I think it's a little bit different in that Keller was a reaction keeper. He was more of a, quote unquote shot stopper than a complete like form guy like Friedel was. Neuer has pretty good form. So it's not as though he's just a shot stopper. Those guys tend to collapse. That's pretty much what happened to Timmy. You're seeing kind of the end of Tim Howard's career, I think, right now. I'm not saying he can't play for another year or two, but you're definitely seeing the tail end of it here.
Well, to be fair, nobody goes. Those that go to those games in Colorado, they're stoned anyway, so they're all right. As long as there's enough Cheetos around, they're okay.
I mean, Keller hit 40 and went off a cliff. Friedel's still in the Premier League at 40. I mean, it was about then that he gave up the starting job, but Neuer's not 40 yet.
Friedel's accent seems to be coming back too.
Like I said, I was just asking more so because of the way Germany crashed and burned. Would it have mattered to make that change going into the tournament because Neuer hadn't been playing and because Ter Stegen had been playing and playing reasonably well? I mean, could it have made a difference overall? You don't seem to think so, Chris. So and I'm not disagreeing necessarily. I just thought it was a good question to throw out there.
I think Germany needed a leader and a striker. I think that I think they needed a Schweinsteiger or Lahm type leader, and I think they needed a Miroslav Klose type striker. And maybe that would have been Sandro Wagner if he would have gone. I don't know, but yeah, those were the two things that they felt they couldn't finish, and it felt like they were getting dejected awfully fast. And it's obviously not going to be. It's not going to be Ozil doing that. That's
the
not
big
what
thing,
Ozil does, so.
Like we've talked about with Ozil for Arsenal, the big thing to truly use him to the fullest extent of his capabilities, you have to really be able to hold possession and hold it for long periods of time because he really only works in the final third of the field. And maybe it's not even that. I mean, I think I said when we were talking about him a couple of weeks ago or something, he works in the first third to half maybe of the final third because he's not shooting. So he's not doing a ton in the box itself. He's really working in that like 10-yard, 15-yard space just outside the box. And you still need players who can support him both to get the ball to him and to kind of to close that gap between like the defense and that spot where he's working, but also to cover for him, on defense and to get the ball to him. So you really need both halves of it, and that's where you really need a strong, incredibly strong central midfielder. I think that's why Arsenal has struggled to really get a lot out of him for the most part for the last 2 years. Now, granted, yes, you can say all the assists he had 2 seasons ago, but there were other things going on there. And I think Alexis had a much bigger role to a much bigger part in helping him succeed as well. But that gets into other stuff. My feeling about him with Germany, yeah, they were missing someone to lock down the midfield, so he had the freedom to kind of do what he does. Oh, but and then back to the goalkeeper thing. If there had been a bunch of goals scored that it was obvious that walls were set up incorrectly, a bunch of missed saves, a bunch of goals scored to the near post or something, yeah, of course you can say, what, either Neuer wasn't ready or they should have just moved on, that his time has gone. I have trouble believing that a guy who was so far out in front of everyone,
think
4
about what
years
they gave
ago,
up.
Yeah.
Seriously, it was 1 goal to Mexico, 1 goal to Sweden. Is that right? I don't even remember what the Swedish goal was. And then the 2 against South Korea were, one was at point blank range at the end, and then the other one he wasn't even in the net. So,
no, like I said, I think I said last week, that might be the first time I've seen an empty netter in soccer, an actual outdoor, high level of soccer, like a true empty net goal.
There's got to be some when Campos was playing for Mexico, or why am I drawing a blank at his name from Colombia?
Was that Higuita?
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of cocaine contest between him and Maradona.
See, my feeling is I wish he was in the stands. They were showing cutaways of him at Colombia matches, because that would have been awesome.
Him next to Valderrama, I think that would have been
true. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. I saw the people in Valderrama wigs. Actually, I watched that game at the bar, and a bunch of people were like, "What's with the wigs?" And like another guy and I were like, "That's Valderrama. That's awesome."
Wasn't he actually there though?
He was there. But they only showed him like once.
And isn't his hair look like as gray as kind of yours is getting?
He still colors it just because he's getting so much older. Like it's that kind of it doesn't have the brightness and
when you look like Sammy Hagar or
kind of it's just getting like old and getting wrecked from the bleaching or whatever.
Speaking of Basti, I met Basti last weekend at the Fire game. It was fun. He's a nice guy.
A bastard and a Basti.
I made Finn say Dankeschön to him.
And Finn didn't understand the Ferris Bueller's reference at all.
He didn't. No, but he remembered to say Dankeschön from when we were in Germany earlier this year. So I'm like, you got to be respectful. Got to say Dankeschön. Basti seemed to like that, so he gave.
And he told him he recalled Central Park and Fall.
He did, yes.
He did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You tore your dress.
And then they did twist and shout on a parade float.
Yeah.
I think we've covered it, guys.
Yeah.
Next week we'll do a show. We haven't even begun to think about that. It'll happen at some point, and you'll watch. This is USfanTV. We have a website. We have a Twitter and a Facebook and an Instagram, and they are all USfanTV. And Chris makes artwork for those and posts it. You should look at that. We don't have Snapchat because Snapchat sucks.
Stupid things I come up with.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything with the last weekend. I thought we had some.
He had to leave for the funeral. I forgot to do it. So the thumbnail is you, TJ.
I saw that. I was kind of depressed, and I'm like, and YouTube didn't ban it.
No, but they did it. We're banning things when it was. I should go back and check. There was a streak, you guys. Seriously, this is true. There was a streak where our videos were being flagged as inappropriate only when they had TJ up as the thumbnail, and when I took that down, YouTube would release that.
I guess YouTube gets it. I mean, that's all I can think of.
So there we go. TJ, do you have any final words?
Nope. Follow Chris on Snapchat. That's about all I can think of.
We'll tell you the username, the handle at some point. but I don't know it. Only you know it. So, Chris, what are your final words?
I have nothing. You are done.
I can't top that. You're done.